What's the saying and how does it go? Or what's the song and how does it go? We don't talk about Bruno. No, 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 no. Good evening, West Ham world, and welcome back to the West Ham Network. My name's Anton, and I'm bringing you a little bit of breaking news. And it's really, it's wouldn't be West Ham without anything having many hurdles in front of our way, many barriers put in front of us, you name it, etc., etc. Now, literally about half an hour ago, I was doing a little bit of research on some West Ham players, and I clocked a couple of different articles, all put out, reputable sources, reputable media sources, talking about the potential deal to bring Fabrizio Bruno to West Ham. Both reports were the polar opposites of each other. And I took a screenshot of both of them and I sent them into the West Ham Network group chat. The first one said that Fabrizio's Bruno's teammate speaks out as dream 12.5 million West Ham transfer nears, talking heavily about how the deal is very close, players agreed terms, you name it. That came from a reputable media source online. Literally 20 minutes later, another article came out from another reputable source, not the same one, saying Bruno has given up on a move to West Ham and will remain with his current club, Flamengo. The player has rejected West Ham's salary proposal and has decided to remain at Flamengo. Now, apparently, we'll dig into that a little bit deeper in a second. But in relation to this, on top of that, Fabrizio Romano, reputable journalist online, etc., has spoken out himself and said that West Ham have hit personal terms issues with the player. You couldn't write it. But I'm not going to panic. By no means yet, right? But also, as part of this update that came out from Fabrizio Romano, it says that West Ham are in strong conversations with Palmeira's talent, Luis Guilherme, and negotiations are underway to bring him to London. It said that we've made an approach of a deal worth £30 million for the 18-year-old midfielder, with sell-on clauses set to be included. The young Brazilian, as the way they describe it, is an exciting prospect despite only making 43 appearances in his breakthrough season since December of 2022. And they do have a long list of history of producing very good, talented players through their academy. And it looks like he is a player that West Ham are going to be looking at moving forward, obviously with the potential breakdown because of the way that the goalposts have moved in terms of Wesley Gustavo. And now the situation arises when it comes to the potential news of the breakdown of the Bruno deal. So this is a kind of breaking news, developing story. I'm assuming we'll hear plenty more updates as the days go on, even as the evenings go on. But I wouldn't necessarily write any of these deals off or on, because as we all know, we have to be very mindful of the fact that, until they're wearing the West Ham shirt, essentially, then nothing has essentially come out in terms of facts. Troj, you're in the house. I'll come on to something in a second. Bruno Knockout. Hey, I used to watch you in lockdown. Good to see you. Thank you very much. Afternoon, Anton. Thanks to see you, Seeger. Simple answer. Just walk away and look for someone else who wants to play for the club. Now, apparently, some of the reports are coming out from mainstream media in Brazil, and they're stating in terms of the Fabrizio Bruno deal that what's on offer in comparison to living and the living standards in London, that Bruno sees those developments being extremely financially different, and he expects a wage rise in comparison to that. And I don't believe, from what we understand, and there is no element of definite confirmed truth in this, but apparently what he has been offered is not relevant to where he would be living and plying his trade for his career. So it doesn't seem like a progressive move for him, apart from playing in the Premier League financially, what they're saying is it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. So the interesting thing on this one is how different things are reported. And this is why I'm kind of technically bringing this story to you. If things have hit a problem with Bruno, and as some people are saying in the comments, then you do need to move on on other targets. And I do believe West Ham will be doing that. And I don't have any problems. And the reason why I have no problems is we're looking to do and move in the market quickly. And I like that. And that's a good thing for West Ham. Do business nice and early. Get things over the line nice and early. Nice and early. And that's what gives me the confidence in knowing that West Ham are going to make the right decisions for the right players that fit the right mold for the right head coach, you name it. So we've offered him similar wages to what he is already on. I think there's the comparison. I don't think it's necessarily the same wages. Again, I'm trying to read between the lines and understand exactly what they're saying. But I think in terms of where he is currently based, where he is currently living, the standard, the way of life in London is a lot more expensive. So maybe that doesn't relate to what he is earning. It isn't anything straightforward, but equally though, Mark, we all get ourselves into this hurrah of transfers, and essentially West Ham Network don't help that situation because we report the news, we report this information and bring this to you, the subscribers, but essentially this whole mainstream media is a bit of a circus, and we should all know that. So we do try and state at the start, nothing is factual until it's put out there, until West Ham announce it themselves with the players holding the top. And you can get carried away. I'll be honest with you, the Bruno deal, the only concern I ever had about this was the fact that he wanted to play a couple of games if West Ham were to sign him. That's such a risk. And I'm not saying West Ham would have agreed to that. And again, I don't really know who knows all of that information for facts. But if that was true and he wanted to do his farewell game, why would West Ham take a risk in playing him, signing a player who wants to play 2 more farewell games? It just didn't add up to me. But anyway, who knows? This window, how many clubs are we going to alienate now? Moyes is gone. God knows. I reckon 4. That's all right. We can keep our money for better players. £30 million is a lot for this type of deal. Yeah, but there must be an element of trust in the process. Again, going back to Tim Steidten and all his scouting issues, he's not really necessarily got a huge amount of players wrong in his whole career. You've got to look at his work he's done at Bayer Leverkusen and the work he did at West Ham so far. He looks good, athletic, dynamic, left-footed. I still want Wesley. Just feels like it's getting a bit rash and scattergun already. But might not be, because he might not be a link that's maybe out in the mainstream media. West Ham are working probably on several links. Russ done an update on the show today about transfer rumours, and I think we're upwards of 70 odd, nearly 80 players that were linked to such early days, and the transfer window isn't open yet. So it's only going to get more and more and more. And you expect that when you have a change of manager, because then you expect a change of direction and a change of policy. Well, that's a shame if the Bruno deal is folded. Again, it looks like it's hit a stumbling block, and it could be down to personal terms. Chelsea paid 30 million with another 30 in add-ons for their Brazilian. He's supposed to be better than Enrics, though. Russie mentioned this at lunchtime. Bruno and Guilherme. Bruno contract wasn't much more than what he was on, and the contract length was actually something like 6 months earlier than the current deal. I still don't think the length of contract was the issue. If a player has been awarded a specific amount of money, especially to live in London, where your finances don't travel as far as, essentially you pick my house up and you put that in London, it's worth more money. I travel on a train. It's cheaper to travel in Scotland than it is in London. And you can look at that comparison from traveling from Brazil to London, your standard of life, that your finances you need to pay for. Can't believe we might be getting a youngster. I'm worried. I'm not worried. I only want players who want to play for West Ham. I'm not worried. And again, we'll just have to wait and see what the situation is. And if West Ham are going to kind of stand their ground on their valuation of what a player is worth per week, then so be it. And if it means we have to move on from it, then so be it. There is a part of me that's like, just go out and get the player if that's the player that the team want, but we'll see. We're not signing anyone unless Sullivan's favourite agents are involved. My concern always comes down to Sullivan. I'm not going to get carried away. I'm not going to panic. My concern always falls on Sullivan. Bruno is probably just holding out for a slightly better offer. I'm sure he'll come in. As long as we sign the worst goalkeeper in the Premier League last season, I'm happy. Usual suspect. It's an interesting one. I've had this debate several times in my head with other people from West Ham Network. I would, in theory, rather a younger third goalkeeper, the younger player to be the third backup goalkeeper. However, being a young keeper and not playing game time, why would you be the third choice? It wouldn't add up. It wouldn't do well for their development and wouldn't necessarily do well for West Ham's development. So going for an experienced player who's strongly probably not going to play, who can hold his own within reason. I don't necessarily rate him. I'll back him if we sign him, but it makes more probably business sense to have that backup as well. Yeah, but we even lowballing people on this end of the scale is worrying. I heard a rumor we didn't offer much more than he is already getting. Steve Brown, geezer is a mug if he wanted to be a big time Charlie and move to West Ham was what was needed, stay in Brazil. But again, Steve, we've got to be mindful of the fact that this is all stuff that's just come out of the camps. I do believe there's an element of truth in what has been said, but we don't know essentially the full ins and outs. I like Bruno, I like the idea of bringing a senior player in from Brazil. We're looking for young talents from there also, absolutely. We don't know the facts before we start insulting, throwing. Absolutely, Troz. I completely agree with you on that one. Go for 12 million or 12.5 million with 3 million on add-ons and 3.5 million on add-ons, but it is very silly typical. It is, Troz. It really is. Don't know a lot about Bruno, but Suarez said he was the best centre-back he played against. Maltese says, why can't we contracts have our ratchets getting up over the wages based on performance? They probably do, but probably West Ham undervalue players. And I think that's my concern when it comes to players like Ben Johnson, whether you like him or not. In my opinion, Ben Johnson has definitely earned the right to demand, within reason, a reasonable contract. And unless West Ham absolutely factually know they're not going to play him, then there's no point. Then we're not going to sell an asset. He's going to leave the club. But I equate that to West Ham paying money for players that don't feature, paying over the odds. Let's look at the money that we spend on Danny Ings. If you're Ben Johnson, you're looking at how much Danny Ings get. If you're Ben Johnson, you're looking at how much Yarmolenko got. If you're Danny Ings and you're looking at some of the really bad signings we've had over the years who've never performed for West Ham and they receive over the odds of money, then you're going to be a bit pissed off. You are. For the deal to break down, come out like this, I assume we offered something insulting, though. We need Premier proven players, not these type of players who need time to change and settle in at what appears to be an attitude. Maltesers, I hear you're conduct of misinformation for our club. What? Oh God, you are having a little Barney with each other. Please don't. The transfer window isn't even open yet. Let's chill out the scattergun talk for the time being. Absolutely. It's annoying. It seems like there are deals to be done and we're being tight. Negotiations over transfer fees, I get, but personal terms with players based in Brazil are not a good look. Sully and Brady are tight and refuse to pay agents other than their ones. The way they tried to force Johnson to change agents speaks volumes. He didn't, so let it go. Guy J says, won't be losing sleep over this one. I was more excited about the fact we were signing players early rather than signing Bruno. Please let me say to you, it's not desperately done. It's not over. There's probably room for negotiation. Probably West Ham will go back and start those conversations. We just have to be mindful of what is true and what is factual. Johnson is a loyal and wouldn't change agent. Why insult a man with a deal which we know he will question, make the deal appealing for him and get him. And there is that element, isn't there, when it comes to a player that you absolutely you need or you want. The one issue is, if you get let's just Tim Steiden, Lopetegui, if you want a player, go get the player. Within reason, but go and get the player. We just don't do it. Anyway, it's a short and sweet live one for you tonight. Some breaking news coming out from Fabrizio Romano. Hearing different contracting stories. Fabrizio Romano has confirmed there has hit a bit of a stumbling block with personal terms for Bruno, as West Ham are striking a deal, trying to bring this wonder kid, Guilherme, over from Palmeiras in Brazil. So that's it. Short and sweet for you. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the comments. Please subscribe to the channel and join us later on for some more content as per usual, because there'll be something new happening. Come on, you irons.